Good evening, golf enthusiasts, and welcome to my webinar series, Tuesday Traces. The purpose of this webinar is to show how the V1 pressure mat powered by BodyTrack is used. Welcome to all the folks that registered and have joined us via the Zoom webinar, and welcome to all the folks tuning in to the V1 Sports Facebook live channel. Please remember, we record these webinars, and if you signed up today, you will automatically get a link. My team will share contact information for Steven and I in the chat windows in Facebook and Zoom. So you'll have our contact information. If you think of any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us later. We love answering questions from you. So please share only good questions in the chat window. We'll get to the good ones. The silly ones we ignore. I'm just kidding. We answer all the questions, even the silly ones. Other than Terry Hashimoto, who is joining us tonight, I think my co-host tonight has been using the pressure mat longer than any of our Tuesday Traces rock stars. So in honor of all the awesome information that we're going to learn tonight, we're going to give away an iPad. For all of you that registered for the Zoom, you are automatically entered. For those of you watching on Facebook Live, please just send an email to marketing@v1sports.com and you'll be entered. My team is going to pick a random winner and I will announce it around 7:45. So everybody already in the Zoom is already in the list. If you're tuning in via Facebook, just send an email to marketing@v1sports.com with your name and you'll be entered. And they will randomly select a winner. We'll announce it shortly. We're really excited. V1 Sports is a 25-year-old company and the leader in delivering video analysis and instruction solutions to golfers and golf instructors around the world. In addition to our partnership with BodyTrack, we are really excited to share our new V1 Game and V1 Coach app with the golf community. We have some additional new integrations with some simulator partners coming soon. Please keep an eye out for some super exciting announcements this fall. My marketing team is working away furiously. We are very excited. That's just a little teaser, but within 30 days, there's gonna be some really exciting new integrations with V1 Sports. A few years ago, our V1 Sports team worked to integrate the BodyTrack pressure data into the V1 Sports software, and now we're able to support both from our headquarters right up in Novi, Michigan. I'm super proud of our partnership with BodyTrack and being able to work every day with the best BodyTrack pressure mat resources in the industry, including the king of pressure himself, Terry Hashimoto, Jake Thurm, Richard Hughes, and of course, my co-host this evening, Steven Cox. I am Mandy Von C, sales manager for V1 Sports, based in beautiful Charleston, South Carolina. I absolutely love my job. I love my team, and I love putting great technology in the hands of golf instructors and golfers. It is so much fun to receive testimonials from someone that was absolutely blown away at a golf lesson with the BodyTrack data and made huge improvements in their golf swing. It happens all the time, guys. I put this technology in the hands of golf instructors and their students are like, oh my God, it's amazing. In addition to the testimonials that we get back from the technology, I really appreciate the feedback we're getting on our Tuesday Traces. This is new technology. And so my purpose is to just put it out there. I'm interviewing new instructors. Steven Cox is absolutely one of the best. He's been using this technology since 2014. Your feedback on our Tuesday Traces is awesome. I'm sharing it with my team. It is so sweet. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Now, on to the very exciting things. Steven Cox. He is a PGA professional. He is a self-proclaimed golf nerd. I didn't say it, he did. Who grew up in Wisconsin. He is known for demystifying golf mechanics through immersive technology. Steven delivers groundbreaking student improvement through swing visualization and advanced applied theory. That's like such a mouthful, but it's so important.
Who said that?
You said that, and it's so important.
Oh, did I say that?
You have so much knowledge of all these crazy technologies, and
I feel like I'm gonna let everybody down now after.
No, you're not. You're not, because you know so much about all these cool technologies. Steven is well versed in most of the top golf technologies, and companies like HD Golf, FlightScope, and BodyTrack and V1 Sports. We're absolutely looking to Steven for his data and feedback. Steven's Academy Elite Golf Instruction is based at PGA National in Palm Beach, but he also teaches with his mentor, Rick Smith, at the Rick Smith Golf Performance Center in Miami. Steven, thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you for teaching all day and for joining me and for spending your time with me tonight. I'm so grateful.
I'm still in my attire, so
that's okay.
You got me looking pretty good.
That's okay. We got people from all over the world. And so you're in Florida. I'm in Charleston. It's still really hot here.
It is hot.
You've been teaching all day. You know, I got to tell you, Rick Smith is your mentor, and I know Rick Smith. And so I reached out to him and I said, give me something good. Give me like a little nugget about Steven and something funny to bring up. And he said, he's just like the best guy ever. He wouldn't give me anything to like roast you on.
That's because everybody likes Rick. Rick has nothing bad to say about anybody. He's just a positive person to be around. So every time I take the hike down to Miami, which takes well over an hour for me, I always know I'm going to end up getting a good golden nugget from Rick. So it's always worth the time to go down there and just listen to him and shadow him and watch him. So,
and, you know, that segues into a good question sort of, or how we met. So if anyone has not been to the Rick Smith Golf Performance Center, it is definitely a lab for the best golf technologies. It's where I met you. I was installing the Robo Golf Pro. They've got gears. They've got a lot of super high-end golf technology.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your interaction with high-level golf technology, and specifically how you've been working with your mentor, Rick, in sort of using the technology to get in, you know, in your golf lessons.
Yeah, it's one thing that really sticks out that I heard from Rick a long time ago was after he would get a tour player, you know, in a position that he liked, in a way that they're hitting the ball very well, he always liked to talk about how he measured. And so when you add in all of those golf technologies that you put together, which now he has in this beautiful building down in Doral, he's able to literally measure every single joint of the body, every single little micro movement throughout the golf swing. And more importantly, when he gets a tour player, like this last weekend, Tyler McCumber, you know, he places second down at Punta Cana. And, you know, I already know exactly where he's headed with these guys. He's going to want to get them on gears. He's going to want to get them on the Robo and actually measure exactly what they're doing at this point in time. So when it goes sideways later down the road, they have a benchmark to go back to. So it seems very simple. However, there's only so many people on the planet actually measuring.
I love that. And, you know, I learned that down from Rick, actually, that we all work towards our golf swing, right? We're working to improve, but I think Rick is also working to capture when you're your best, right? Like he wants to see when you're playing your best, like let's capture that and create and capture that data and save it. So then if you're off your game or you're, you know, regrouping back in like 6 months, or you've had an injury, you can say, okay, let's work back to this data. And I think that's a cool thing. I sort of learned that myself when I was down there visiting.
Yeah, it's always nice to compare a good swing and a not so good swing. But more importantly, the good swings you want to measure. Yeah. And we always want to have, like I said, you always want that benchmark to go and fall back to anytime something's sideways. So, you know, when he coached Phil for all those years, you know, he had those benchmarks in the back of his head that they were always going back to. Okay, well, if you have this problem, I've got this workstation for you. And so when I have players that I know have common faults in their golf swing, it's my goal to show up early for that golf lesson and set up a workstation for them, whether it be with body track or alignment sticks or swimming noodles, or, you know, you list a million things.
All the technology partners, but then also the noodles and the tennis balls and the chairs and all the other stuff we use as training aids.
Barriers work very, very well.
Yeah, of course. So I have a quick question specifically about one of the students that Rick works with that you've also worked with. Sort of a selfish question. One of Rick Smith's students is Rocco Mediate. He is absolutely known for playing golf barefoot and practicing barefoot. I get in a lot of trouble with my team because I'm always barefoot at my desk. I often am and doing webinars and I'm standing on my pressure mat barefoot. Every time Terry Hashimoto tells me a drill, I feel like it means something more when I'm barefoot. So I've seen you work on your pressure mat barefoot. Can you talk to that a little bit? I mean, I see you're wearing shoes now. I know it's a big deal, but talk to me about that.
Oh, I think that the easiest way to put it is we want our players to be grounded. We want them to understand what they're feeling underfoot. And when I take my shoes off, and I'm actually a good example would be like Kyle Berkshire. You see this guy back and forth like this. He's basically activating, all of these feels, and I'm getting this sense of where my center is. And I seem to do that better when I actually don't have shoes on. So I don't know if there's any science behind that or not. However, what I really do like is feeling where my true center is. I surf a lot. I windsurf a lot. If I don't know where my true center is at that point in time, I'm taking a swim really quick. So you can either go for a ride or you can take a swim. For me personally, when I swing a golf club, any athletic motion of any sort, I want to know where my true center is at all times.
So Steven, this is a total like deviation from golf, but I'm curious because I'm a surfer as well, and I'm goofy foot. Does that mess you up? Are you goofy?
I'm actually a lefty.
You are? So you
I'm a
surf
lefty. No, I'm actually switch. I go back and forth. I can do either way. And I'm actually trying to teach myself how to play golf lefty. So I was given right-handed golf clubs as a kid. I did everything lefty except throw. I throw with my right arm. I kick lefty. I right lefty. I eat lefty.
Interesting.
And I was given right-handed golf clubs, and of course they were little butter knives with extra stiff shafts in them, and told me to figure it out. So I beat myself up for the first who knows how many years, and eventually it worked out.
Well, there you go. That's what happens when you don't have a golf coach or good golf instruction, right? And we're gonna
never had any instruction until probably 23.
We're gonna get into that. I know that you have something in common with Tommy in that aspect. We'll get into that in just a minute. So you guys, Steven has been using the Body Track pressure mat since 2014 with Terry Hashimoto when he first developed this technology. And Steven only focuses on the linear trace or the linear velocity. Super important for this webinar tonight. We have only seen our pros really focusing on the pressure mapping. I'm super excited because Steven is absolutely going to talk about linear velocity. I want my girls to put Steven's definition for linear velocity in the chat. They know what it is. He defines linear velocity as the ability or inability to use the trail foot properly. I think that's so important. Steven, why is the linear velocity and when it happens the most important body track pressure data to you?
Well, it leads to not only the pitch of the shaft, but it also leads to the mechanics of the body. So I teach a lot using people's hands and people's feet. And if those two things are used correctly, everything in between usually falls into place. And so if I'm not using my hands correctly, if I'm not pitching the shaft correctly, if I don't have the correct swing plane, or if I don't have my feet grounded in the right way or form, or if I'm not applying a force in the correct way, usually you're going to have a dynamic movement or a dynamic posture that changes as you're swinging the club. And so that leads to obviously misfires. Centerness of hit obviously isn't there, and a bigger and wider dispersion. So if I'm moving my body up and down or not pushing towards the target, we're going to start seeing different postural changes throughout the golf swing, which is then going to change definitely what this thing is doing. And the leading edge is definitely not going to be orientated in the right way unless it's absolutely perfect timing with the hands and eyes.
Got it. Cool. Okay. So, we're going to brag on a few things. One really quick thing. I know that you use the mat for fitting golf clubs. I know it's a toss up on whose idea that was.
A little bit. No, that's Terry. That's all Terry. I was just a nerd and asking him.
Do you still do that? I'm curious.
I don't do a lot of fittings anymore. I did in the very beginning. I really enjoyed it because I thought I was kind of changing the whole philosophy on the fitting itself, using the mat and using how quickly people pushed or braked. And so we started seeing different ways that linear velocity number and that release factor number would equate to a different tipping of the shaft. And so Terry was the one that kind of led me down the right road in that aspect. But I figured, you know, if I'm moving this fast, why can't it translate? Isn't there correlations between everything?
That is
Kind of
so
like,
important, right? To
yeah,
use the mat for fitting, putting, chipping. I mean,
yeah,
everything, right?
it can be more than just a pressure trace. You can find correlations everywhere. So if I'm looking at gears and I have somebody on the pressure mat, you might see like their pelvis trace. So their center of the pelvis is moving a specific way. And a lot of the time it actually looks almost the same on the pressure mat. Or even if I get a really good player to feel like their hand path looks a certain way, a lot of the time the reaction is the pressure trace looks very relative. And so I like seeing the correlations between how we use our feet and how the rest of our body is now functioning or not functioning.
I like it.
And you know, as for the clubs, yeah, you can boil it down to almost the exact cycle necessary for the shaft flex. It's pretty amazing, but you know, it's so outside the box that obviously nobody's jumping on board.
So
we'll get over that hurdle, Terry.
thank you, Steven, for the perfect segue. You know, you've got some really special students, and I love hearing about how you're working with the juniors. Everybody that I asked about you said Steven works with some pretty spectacular juniors. Everybody, of course, knows the young Tommy Morrissey. Anna's going to tee up some videos about Tommy Morrissey, but so okay. I love the fact that you and one of your young students, Tommy, have never actually had a real traditional golf lesson. He says that in an interview. And if you don't know Tommy Morrissey, we're going to play a video of Tommy. And then I would love to, we actually have some pressure data of Tommy. We want to hear a little bit about this. He's pretty spectacular. So Anna, can you do a quick screen share and show that video? And then we want to, I have to hear the pressure. I have to hear you talk to his pressure for a second, because it's so amazing what he's doing and how he's working with the ground to get this power.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So we must be having some audio issues here. This is young Tommy Morrissey. Our audio is not working, but he is one of Steven's students. He is a one-armed golfer. He is a total rock star. And he talks in this video, our audio is not working, but he's talking in this video about using his core and the ground to get that power. And he has never, I mean, he's pretty cool rock star. I guess we should maybe cut this a little early, Anna, since our audio is not working, but let's show Tommy's trace.
Look good.
I know. I love that he was on. I mean, look at this. So tell me what happened here.
Yeah. That's a very long time ago.
How was it? What, I mean, it's so fascinating to me.
Yeah. He's really, really, after he loads on his trail foot, he gets really, really linear across.
Yeah.
And then he's the first player I've ever really run into. It doesn't happen every single time, you know, obviously it's just a trend. I'm wondering if it's on this one right here. Yeah, you can see it. Now it looks like it didn't center in the top right there. Yeah, COP trace. What you're going to see is almost a full circle.
Yep.
I've never seen anybody just make perfect circles like that before.
Why is that? Is he so focused on his core that happens? What can we learn from Tommy?
It's basically straight across. You see him go down into his heels, and then he shoots it straight over to the other heel. And by the time the club snaps around, the force of that club starts pulling him back to where he started.
Mm-hmm.
So because obviously he can't use his trail arm to break, he's got to swing it all the way around in this full circle. So where he actually brings it back to is almost like that old John Daly looking back scratcher. And then he brings it all the way back around and it swings all the way around to the other side. And what's funny is the way that the hands and the club are moving relates or translates right to how his center of pressure is. That's actually where I started kind of picking it up. How somebody's hands and club move is relating very, very much to where their feet are or where the pressure is actually translating. And then on the left side, you can actually see how much vertical he's using.
It's amazing.
So it's a little hard for me to see on my screen, but it looks like he's using anywhere from 3 to 3.5 times his total mass, which is,
he's about just over 3.
Obviously he's only about 80 pounds, but, pound for pound, his body is reacting to that linear action across. And that vertical force is a reaction to how fast his linear is.
Isn't that crazy? Were you blown away by this?
The first time I saw it was, maybe 4 or 5 Hondas ago. We were at the Honda Open. I was there late working on something in my little man cave where I have a simulator and doing a couple other crazy things, I'm sure. But I had the doors open and the head of Honda comes down with this young family, and it's Joe and Marsha and young Tommy. And Tommy looks at the simulator and he goes, well, I want to hit some shots. Can I hit some shot? And of course, Joe's like, no, we got to go to dinner. I'm like, no, let's get this kid in here. I got to see this. And of course I had the pressure mat hooked up, and he hits a couple shots and I'm going, wow, this kid's really good, because he just pulled a full reg shaft men's size driver out. And he's cranking it about 160 to 180. And for this little guy, he's just pumping it out there with this full size golf club. And, I start measuring what the verticals are doing. And I must have got about a dozen traces and a dozen measurements of the vertical force. And I didn't really think too much about it. I was just like, oh, this thing's broken. It doesn't work. There's no way that's right. And I actually called Terry the next day and I said, listen, I don't know if this thing's broken or not, but I need you to tell me if this is correct. And he started laughing and he goes, I've seen this before. And he goes, it's absolutely 100% accurate. And here's this little guy with one arm, translating over to his lead foot incredibly fast. His lead foot is braking hard, pushing straight up into the ground, and he's getting 3, 4, sometimes all the way up to like 7, 8 times his total mass into the ground. And it was almost like, you want to shake your head and be like, no, the technology doesn't work. There's no way that could be right. But it's a kid who adapted. It's somebody who figured out a way how to perform with or without the trail arm. And if you look up the kid, he's playing a lot of baseball. His uncle is now the St. Louis Cardinals manager. So he's obviously a big St. Louis fan, and he's playing a lot of baseball. He's batting like 700-800 right now.
Unbelievable. So
I just have this feeling he's just an athletic kid.
Yeah.
He's super balanced, super athletic, and he can get it done no matter what he's doing. So sometimes you can't teach that.
Yeah, that's pretty special. It's pretty cool to see that he's using his body and the bottom part of his body to get that power. Was fascinating. We talked about it in our team meeting this morning. We were very excited to ask you about it. We have 7 videos of yours to share.
Okay.
Anna's going to screen share some of your videos. And do you want to just start at the top?
I don't know what order they are in.
So we have some...
Okay. We're going to go with the unique one here. Very unique. Very, very, very unique.
I like it.
So if you look at the starting point here, because I'm pretty sure that's the starting point, most of us would say that is incorrect, because we are all taught that you should have 60-40 on the front, or at least with this wood in hand, you should be at least 50-50. not really too much more than 55, 45. And I have this young man here who's starting at 65. And I didn't, originally I wanted to change it. And then I started thinking more and more about it. I have a brother-in-law, excuse me, who pitched for Kentucky. And me and him have a lot of fun conversations about how pitchers use the ground and how batsmen use the ground. And something that I noticed about this young man is he wanted to start loaded up on his trail side. So what you'll notice is when he takes it to the top, it doesn't really go back. It's extremely abbreviated. It doesn't really go anywhere, and it just stays extremely centered. Now, I realize that there's golf coaches out there that are going to see flaws in this and whatnot. But to be completely honest, this kid's shooting. He's going out to golf tournaments as a 14-year-old playing against 17-year-olds, and he's shooting 72. So tell me if that's right or wrong.
There you go.
So if you look at how abbreviated that is, what he's doing is he's just internally loading into his trail hip. And then what he's going to do is he's going to push extremely hard going forward. Just like if I were a home run hitter, I would preload myself and then I would take a step staying coiled or wound shut to the target, and then I would unwind. And that's exactly what this young man's doing. Now, there's just a little hiccup in his trace right down at the bottom that we're working on. But, that was just something that I shot the other day. And I thought it was a bit unorthodox. And the fact of the matter is it's working.
So Steven, you said when he started, Anna, go back to the beginning of that. You're saying that he's got 65% weight or 65 in his
pressure in
his trail foot. And you are not, correct. That is not ideal. However, you're working typically, if you are going to, take a beginner or take somebody who doesn't really know any better. Again, this is a kid that shoots very well, and he's getting it done a certain way. And I think I have another video that you guys have uploaded that, it's very relative. It's a tour player that I have that I'm working with, and it's the same thing. Or not the same as this, but it's a bit unorthodox, but it gets it done. Nice.
And so for me, it's the importance of, is the body moving continuously? Am I getting into the right side bend and curl or rotation, excuse me? And, what's the dispersion look like? What's my shot shape look like? And am I achieving the goal that I want? More specifically, is my player achieving the goal that they want? And so at the end of the day, is the body functional? Number one. Number two, are we getting the goal? Are we achieving the goal? And then number three, is it translating to scores?
Yeah. And
in this case, that's what we're looking at right now. You see how he's flared his lead foot. It helps him transition or shift the pelvic girdle linear towards the lead, which then allows him, if we had a face-on view, unfortunately we don't, you'd see his ankle, knee, hip, and swing center or his shoulder socket all be perfectly aligned at impact. And nice. So I could care less what he's doing on the way back. I care more about how he uses the ground to push himself forward and hit the ball dead straight. So I mean,
Anna,
even
can
if
you
you
play that
forward.
Let's see that pressure live. Let's just watch it. Nice. He gets there quick.
Yeah, so basically what he's fighting, you see that little notch right in the center there? That would be that's what he fights. You can see that trail shoulder goes down really low and it almost looks like he's hanging back a little bit. That's what that little hiccup is. Not the end of the world. That's what we're working on. But I wanted to show everybody this very different looking trace.
I like it.
Because it reminded me more or less of a home run hitter. And
it's crazy the correlations between baseball and golf, isn't it? And how the ground.
Yeah, it really is. And that's actually one of the drills I was going to give everybody is how do we use our trail foot to push through better? Because I really don't think it's about vertical forces. I think vertical forces are a reactive force, and it comes from your trail foot and how we break into the lead. So, obviously your lead hip needs to be able to accept all of this. And as you can see in his pressure trace, he's flared that foot to allow the pelvic girdle to shift forward.
Sort of like Bryson, yeah?
He spins a little bit, probably take a little stress off the knee. So good luck to him. you know, I wish him the best because I think it's really cool.
There we go. Let's move on to our next trace. What do we got, Anna? Who's this? Who's this, Steven?
This is a mini tour player that I work with.
And this is a new graph. So our audience is not familiar with this graph, Steven.
Okay. It's a little abbreviated too. I think or not abbreviated, excuse me. The video got cut for some reason. I don't know why. However, what you're going to see and what I really like about this player, and congratulations to him. I'm not going to say any names, but congratulations to him. He actually just broke his home country club record. I believe he shot 61.
Nice.
So, I mean, these guys are doing it right. This is a good one to watch. This is a great swing to watch. And he's definitely on his way to Q school coming up. So, what I want you to do, just go up to the top until his hands reach that top line. You're going to see the barrel probably just slowly touch almost right there. Perfect. So what I really like from him is he gets up and you can see that barrel pointing somewhere relatively close. Like you see how I drew the line just above the golf ball there. What he's going to do is he's going to bring his hands underneath that line. You're never going to see that trail shoulder go around, and you're going to see that trail shoulder go underneath, which is what I would consider a 1-for-1 side bend. And what I mean 1-for-1 is I believe the golf swing has a pivot, and everybody loves to talk about pivot, but we should have a 1-for-1 side bend to pivot. It should equal one another. It should never be one outweighs the other. Otherwise, we will get a wider dispersion, or for the most part, we can't hit the golf ball very well. So what I also have on there is a couple little circles. So what I want to do is let's go up to the peak linear velocity, which is that nice little peak right there, that white line. Can we go, yeah, right about there. So what I really like is that we just hit the peak linear velocity. The lead arm is parallel to the ground. And you can actually see that trail arm is tucked and connected. And it almost makes that perfect little T with the shaft and the spine angle. And then you can actually see the shaft is actually is pointing directly down at the golf ball. The other thing that we have really worked on together is I have that circle down at the bottom there for the knees. And you won't see a big gapping in the knees, and you'll see him actually bank his trail foot, which allows the trail knee to come into the lead knee and actually creates a better side bend and pivot.
That is so cool. Anna, can you use the V1 Sports software and just zoom in on that? I love that visual because I've seen Terry and Jake and Richard and all these guys talk about that position of the lead arm being parallel with the ground. And this is the spot in the linear trace. And that is so important to see that.
Yeah, that's a checkpoint for me for sure.
Absolutely.
So I love the idea that we want the linear velocity to be as high as we possibly can. However, I truly believe that the linear velocity being as high as it can, but at the wrong time, changes the position of the club. So if we want to change where the club is, we got to change the time in which it happens. And so if I don't have that checkpoint, if I don't have that P5 point where linear velocity typically is, and it's usually somewhere in between P5, P6, I love it right in between as well, so that we can just focus on a pivot from that point on. It really limits the closure of the face, and it makes the shot dispersion really tight.
Do you work on that, Steven, in a lesson, showing people, okay, you got to get there faster. This is where we want that peak velocity is right here. I mean, are you showing that data?
We do it with exercises, right? Okay. And I might show them where the peak linear velocity is.
Okay.
Again, I'm not necessarily overloading him because he'd turn into a bobblehead, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, I get it. But I've never, when I'm taking my pressure mat out to the range, I'm not ever looking at this graph, but now that you're telling me this, and I know where that white velocity line should be, I'm playing with that. Like, I'm wanting to know where I'm hitting that. So
sure.
Knowing when that should be the highest is pretty cool for the basic.
I like to, obviously you can associate it with the trace itself, but you can also use a launch monitor with it or your 3D. And it all makes sense. It all, like I said, there's so many connections, there's so many dots to connect. And this is one of them. And, you know, based on that angle of the shaft, and at that point, where is that trail arm and where is the club, could obviously affect the swing direction very easily. And so I don't want to go any further than that, but it could really throw you off if obviously that's too far behind and deep.
Well, that's a great looking position right there. That video is, I've heard so many people talk about that, and to see that in like live is pretty cool.
Yeah, actually, there's 2 drills that I gave him that I felt were critical to get that club in the perfect spot. You know, I can
you show us those drills?
Yeah. Actually, one's really basic. Everybody knows it already, but I feel like I would be robbing everybody. No,
half
I'm not
the
doing
people
anything.
here tonight are here for the drills. Let me let's get you on camera. Okay, you're back. Where'd you go?
I'm right here.
Okay.
So basically, really simple. I told him, I said, you got to do punisher drills. So we always take, I'm sure everybody's seen this one before. It just gets the upper and lower time together. Obviously, I don't want to flip, and that was his problem. He had a lot of additional dynamic loft at the bottom of his swing. It was getting a little stuck, and then he was pitching the shaft out. So he was adding a ton of loft to his shots. Now, this is a guy who was hitting it extremely far, but it was affecting not only his driver, but it was also spinning the wedges off the green. So he came to me and he goes, I have no problem spinning the ball. I go, what do you mean by that? And he goes, well, I spin them off the front of the green. I was like, that's not really anything to boast about. You know, that's something we need to definitely work on, where we actually have more shaft lean and the handles out in front of us, right? Instead of pitching behind us and then slapping us. So that's a very, very simple one, just getting the alignment stick out. The second one that really helps is a pressing hands drill, which is you take your right hand and you just press it along the side. If you can't see this, I don't know how good the lighting is. I'm just going to lay it right down the center of my hand here. And when I take it to the top, if I spin out and it drops behind me, I'm going to have to push and flip. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that there's pressure on that hand the entire way through. And what I like to do is I like to get my players to feel as if they're extending their hands out, but making sure that that stays pressed. You know, Hogan talked about the pistol, and if you pull the handle down and you throw it or you pitch it, it's going to come off of that pressure point. This is the very same idea, except it's a little bit harder. So
what do you call that? Do you have a clever name for that drill?
Just pressing hands.
Pressing hands.
Yeah, just pressing hands. I'm just pressing my trail hand on there. If you want to drive yourself crazy, go for it. It is easily one of the hardest drills to do, but I told this mini tour player that if he wanted to play at an elite level, he can't be good at these drills. He has to be great at these drills.
I like it. I like when you give something that drives people crazy.
He spent a long time driving himself crazy, and sure enough, later in the year, he shoots 61 and breaks his course record. So good for him.
Makes it worth it. Absolutely. All right, Anna, give us something else. You have a specific one you want to talk about? We got 20 minutes. I just don't want to miss any amazing ones. And I know we have 7 awesome students of yours. We don't have them in any specific order. She can scroll through them if you want.
This is going too fast. This is going too fast.
I know, it's so good. It's so good. We could talk about pressure all night, right?
yeah, probably.
Who's this?
Okay, so I didn't want to only put up perfect traces or odd traces. This is something that I'm sure the majority are probably running into. You can see that he actually has a pretty good setup. This is a young high school player, plays on his varsity team. You know, he shoots probably 77, 78. You know, he's a pretty good player, but has trouble with distance. And he tends to create this little power leak, which is something that we had kind of discussed with that peak linear graph, is that he tends to pitch the club. So what I want to do is I'd love for you to take it up to the top and then, go ahead. you're going to see his lower body spin really hard. So let's go frame by frame. And you're going to see that right trail hip go really high. You're going to see there's that gapping, stop right there. You can see the gapping in between his knees. That's a dead giveaway that we're going towards our toes, because you can actually see the knee kicking out due to the fact that the pelvis has gone posterior and we end up having to pitch the club. So there's times where he nukes his shots with a monster power draw. And then there's other times where he hangs back and chunks the crap out of it. So, you know, when you go to the toes, Terry made this very, very famous, or if he hasn't, it will be. Toes are the brakes, heels are the accelerators.
Yeah, he's made it famous.
As you can see, he gets down into impact. And even though you look, if you, I don't know if you zoom in or not, you look at that lead foot and you're going, well, wait a second, that looks actually pretty good. It looks like he's kind of into the center of his foot, right? But this is where practicing without your shoes makes a ton of sense, because you're going to see the toes of the player if they don't have their shoes on and they're hitting those brakes in the toes hard. You're going to see them scrunch up and they're going to start grabbing the turf. And it doesn't take very long for us to hit the brakes a little too awkward and pitch the club. So Rick calls that a substitution of motion, or a substitution of angular velocity. That is
fascinating.
That is a fancy way of saying I'm using my hands a little bit more than I should.
Yeah, it's interesting that you can see that now after using the mat for this many years. We looked at Leon Fricker's trace. He's a China PGA Tour player, and Alex Clapp works with him.
Sure.
And you look at his feet and it's not what his feet are not actually doing what it looks like. So it's fascinating to sort of see that. However, you've been using the mat so long, it's great that you can you already kind of know what the knees are doing. It directs you to those cue points. Stephen Mandeville, by the way, is working on the flat hand drill. He says, wow, he loves it. So I told you,
good.
All of our viewers absolutely love the drills that they get from our webinars on Tuesday.
Don't go crazy.
He does say wow,
go crazy,
all caps.
or go nuts, whatever.
Or go nuts. Yep. There are people that love going nuts. Okay, who's next, Anna?
Okay, so actually, can you get out of this one? And there is we'll go back to this one. Go up. Yeah, well, let's go to here. This is a tour player who I just wanted to show everybody. Go ahead and take the club back.
Who is it, Steven?
His name's Fabian Gomez.
Yep.
So you're going to see, this is really unique. You'll see him kind of more into his toes on the trail side, and then he really loads hard into the trail heel. And then you're going to see what Terry likes to call a flow, or the fluidity of the trace is going under where it came from. And to me, that makes a lot of sense, because what we're actually doing and what Fabian actually looks as if he's doing, and I don't have the 3D to back it up with me, but it looks like his pelvis goes into a little bit more of a set, and then it actually doesn't go into extension until post-impact. So it's slowly extending, and no one's arguing that the pelvis does not extend. But what I actually prefer to see is how slow can we go into that extension. The more we thrust, the worse it seems to get, and the more lumbar issues my players seem to get. So my goal is to try and get the player to feel almost an extension on the way back, followed by a flexion of the pelvis, or an anterior tilt of the pelvis, for as long as they possibly can. And I have a great exercise for that that I love using. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my player put this in their belt line, and I'm going to set something else. Usually I'll stand in front of them. I won't let them swing a golf club like this. I want them to focus more on the functionality of their motion rather than trying to focus on how the club's moving. So I'll have them put this in their belt line, and it'll be poking forward like this to their lead side. And I will hold up a barrier. And what I like to do is I like to see them pointing it down.
Right.
And then I like them to make a check mark with their belt buckle. So I'm going to go down first, and then I'm going to check back up. So the key is to actually gain a little bit more flex in the pelvis first, followed by extension as we're going forward.
I like it. Do you call that the check mark drill?
Yeah, we could call it the check. Give me a check. Give me a check. I love it.
I like it. I like it. We got to have a name for it, right?
Got to have a name.
I like it. So Clint Rice is here all the way from Australia. It's got to be the middle of the night there. It's crazy. Hi, Clint, nice to see you.
Or really, really early in the morning.
Or really, really early. I mean, it might be like 6:45 in the morning. He's not.
Hey, Clint,
he's having coffee.
Clint, I lived in Byron Bay for 5 years.
You lived overseas 6 years teaching golf, didn't you?
Yeah, I was in New Zealand for a year at a resort as well.
He says it's 9:47 a.m. It's like a whole nother
it's not that early, but it is at least morning, so I was close.
Thank you for joining us, Clint. Okay, sorry, I digress. We had to give a shout out to the Australians joining us. Okay, who else do we have in our pressure? Actually, you know what we should do, Steven? We should give away an iPad really quickly. What do you think?
Do it.
Are you on an iPad or a phone?
I'm on an iPad.
Okay, so how often do you take your iPad with your pressure mat out to the range?
Every day.
Every day. That's what you're using to teach with?
Every day.
No cords. I love it.
I use V1 every day. It's the easiest thing to just, I don't necessarily leave it in the car. It gets a little too hot here in Florida, but it's real simple. Just leave by the door, pick it up, and go.
I love it. That's as a sales rep for V1, to be on the road and have just the mat and my iPad and a cool tripod. That is certainly the way to go, and definitely a cool place to be teaching down in the hot areas. Okay, so we have a winner, and the winner is Micah Destival. My team, as soon as I said that, they pulled a random winner, and Micah Destival is one of our folks that has joined us. Micah, you have won an iPad. I will be in touch. I actually have Micah's email, so I will be in touch, and we will be sending you an iPad with software loaded, V1 software loaded. And we would love to get a pressure mat in your hands, because that's all you need. You do what you do. You do what Steven's doing, right?
I got a funny text message from a friend who's watching. He said, "Is that a shark in your pool?" And I told him it's a little unicorn for my baby girl to take a swim in.
Nice.
It's hilarious.
I can't see it. I was gonna mention Steven you have a new 9-month-old baby girl, yeah?
Yep.
Cool. Soon to be golfer.
Pretty cool. Maybe.
To be golfer.
Swimmer. Make her a swimmer first. Yeah.
Nice. Swimmer, surfer, then golfer.
Yeah, gotta have a water baby.
Definitely where we live, right? You can't deal with this heat without getting in the water. Okay, we have time for maybe 1 or 2 more traces. Cool. Guys, if there's any questions for Steven, please put them in our chat window. My team will feed them to us. We'll look at one more trace and have Steven share some linear velocity knowledge, and then we will wrap up. So please don't forget to share your questions.
Cool. Why don't we go real quick? I want you to just go to the last one then, past this one. We don't need to look at a perfect trace, do we? Here we go. Okay, so this one is a tour player that I have started working with in the last few months. And incredibly talented young man, shot 7 under today, just won his mini tour event. Nice. Really great player.
Who is it? Who is it so we can follow him? Who is it?
Yeah, his name's Luke Grabois.
Okay.
He great player. And him and his brother both graduated from Cornell, played on the team. And I'm working with both of them, and they're just great guys, and they work really hard. So they're golf nerds like me, and they love hearing about this stuff. So on this trace, this was the first day that we got together. And I wanted to bring up the linear chart because you can almost see a M looking white line.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if anybody can pick that up. Maybe my eyes are just weird. But I typically see a M on the linear chart when I see people backing up. So you'll see that peak, and you can go up to the peak. And I just want to say this guy gets it done regardless. but this is what we're working on to save his lower back and his knees. So I wanted to show everybody this first. And in this swing, he absolutely pounds it. So don't think that a little backup's going to, hold you back from shooting 8 under today. But he does complain about his lumbar spine. He does complain about SI joint issues, and he does complain about knee problems. And he said before his tournament start this last week down in Punta Cana, that he was only able to warm up with 1 bucket of golf balls. And so that, and I apologize, Luke, if that was between you and I, but, it really raises the red flag right there. So my idea is we have to have players that are functionally moving correctly. They are, and it sounds awful, but they are worthless to me if they are hurt. And so the longer I can keep them playing at a high level, the more success they're usually going to run into. And so my job is to make them functionally move as well as they can. And then incidentally, you obviously get tighter dispersions and better scores. So I wanted to show everybody, when you see that white line create that M pattern, especially not necessarily with your driver, but more importantly with the irons, you're going to start to see a little too much backup. And he ended up getting a little bit of a kind of high trail hip hike, not as much of a hit drop as I like to see. And then you're typically also going to see a little bit of their backside, their butt kind of pinches together a little bit.
Yeah.
And that happens through impact. And I'm not a huge fan of that. I don't like it when the cheek starts to contract really hard like that together, when the right and left cheeks are contracting too hard through impact. Yeah, there's usually something that's gone sideways. And again, I'm not saying that you can't play at a high level. Everybody knows that there's some really quirky stuff out there on tour that works really well. But, guys like Phil Mickelson, Ricky Fowler, more importantly, Ricky, he had back trouble, and everybody thought his swing looked awesome. So just because it looks great doesn't mean it's necessarily functioning throughout the body correctly either.
Yeah, that's
and so
true.
It's our job to use these tools to measure, to see when the dysfunction is happening at that exact point in time. And let's zero in, pinpoint, and fix it.
Yeah. We have a great question. Do you coach your students to feel like they work away from the ball to maintain posture and not early extend?
I actually like to create more of a center pivot. So I'm not somebody that likes to see any more than about 80% on the trail foot. So on my way back, I know you can't see me, but if I swing back, you're going to see me stay very centered over the ball, which is going to send pressure to your trail foot, probably close to 70 to 80%. But anytime you have pressure going past that 80+% mark, you're typically running into spine issues where we're away from the ball a little too much, and then we actually have to make some type of dynamic movement to get back to the ball again. So for me personally, I like to feel like I'm going and staying over the ball, which also feels more or less like I'm creating a left side bend. Usually when I see players that are working too far off of the ball, it's because they have a flat shoulder plane as well. So side bend to me is completely underutilized in the golf swing. We need to focus more on that rather than, oh, you need to pivot more. Pivot, pivot, pivot. Everybody's pivoting. I'm getting my players to bend.
Bend, not pivot.
Yeah, remember what I said earlier, it's a 1-to-1. So if I only teach my players to pivot as hard as possible, I'm not going to have the proper bend and dynamic posture to get down into the golf ball correctly without using my hands.
Steven, I do not want to put you on the spot, but is Bryson doing that?
I don't know. I've never measured.
Okay. I mean, I've watched him so much. I've watched his swing.
If Chris Como wants to share that information, I'd love to look at it.
Okay. I know Chris, and I will ask him. But when you said that, I find it interesting because pivoting, watching what he's doing with his left foot seems.
I believe that he is moving. He is pushing a lot. into his lead side. And the only reason why the lead foot is moving at all, just like Patrick Reed does.
Yeah.
They're sending a ton of force into and being absorbed by that lead leg. And it really varies on the amount of internal hip rotation a player has, and how much rotation. Basically what that is your femur's rotating and your tibia is rotating as well. And there's only so much play, which is why a lot of players have to flare their foot, or a lot of players have to jump off of that foot and rotate it. Otherwise, they put a lot of torquing action on their knee or their lower back. Again, leads to injury.
Yep. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Okay, we have 3 minutes left. So everybody that watches, they absolutely love the drills. You have given us some really amazing feedback.
And one of my videos of Luke actually has the drill I want to give everybody.
Okay, let's see it real quick. Anna,
and it's something, I hate to say it, it's something we're kind of working on. So I don't want to, I don't want to
tell us which video we want.
There we, right there.
That one?
There. That's perfect. Yes, perfect. So here we go. It's a very simple step drill. However, I have a little bit more of a twist on mine because I'm not a huge fan of how other people teach the stepping drill. So what it is you can see his his lead foot has moved into the trail, and see how they're close together?
Yep.
So go ahead, go forward. He's going to go all the way up. And then you're going to see him step, and then you're going to see him fire. But what we like to do is, and this is a great line that I got from Ernie Els, is his line to me was wait on it. You know, if you asked him, how does he hit the ball so well? He says, wait on it. And what he means by that is you go up to the top of your swing using this drill, and then you're going to take your step and you're going to feel like your pelvis and your shoulders are still wound shut to the target. You're not going to just try and take a step and fire everything really quick. And the goal is for that to use your trail foot to then influence how fast your pivot and bend really is.
Okay, and so, use your trail foot to influence how fast your pivot really is. That's like super important.
Rather than trying to use your lead left heel to dig into the ground to influence it. Okay. I don't know if that's the best way to do it. Again, like I said, the active force is your trail foot, which is pushing you in a linear sense towards your target. And the left foot, which is hitting the brakes and creating all of that vertical force, is a reactive force. I don't believe that you should try and use a reactive force to throw the club around. I believe that you should use your back foot to get through the shot.
Okay. So what I have learned here, and I love this because we have seen the step drill multiple times, but I like this. We're learning something new about the step drill, but wait for it. That's what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah. So if you put the camera on me, I'll show you what I mean by that, just so everyone's not super confused. I'm sure they are. As you can see on there, the shot, the trace was very linear, wasn't it? There's still a little tiny bit of backup, but you see how quickly he moved into a linear trace without any backup.
Anna, can you kill the screen share so that Steven can, there we go. Awesome. Thank you.
Can you see me?
Yep, we can see you.
Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to address the ball, and I'm going to bring my left lead foot to the trail foot. And what I want to do is I want to pivot to the top of my swing. Now, here's the part where everyone kind of changes it. As they go back, they start to step forward. I like to go to the top of the swing first, and then I like to step. Notice how my pelvis is actually shut to my target, and so is my shoulder line. So I'm going to go all the way up. I'm going to step. I'm going to stay wound shut, so that's waiting on it. And then I'm going to take this back foot, and I'm going to push to extend. The key is that I use my back foot to push me that direction. I didn't try to use my front foot to try and spin me into that direction. The heel pressure of that foot, of that lead foot, happens due to the fact that I'm using my back foot to then amplify that heel pressure into the ground.
I love it. I have 5 or 10 home pressure mat guys that are going to take that little portion of our webinar tonight, and they're going to replay that over and over again, and they're going to be doing that drill. I know Stephen Mandeville and Jim Altamirano are absolutely 2 of those. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for being here with us tonight. Thank you for
Absolutely.
supporting golfers and the golf industry and the technology and like growing the game with the kids. We love it. We're so happy that you're part of our V1 family. Thank you for sharing your time with me tonight. And I know you've been teaching all day and you have a little baby, so I really appreciate you spending some
lay on the
time.
couch.
We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Steven. We're going to wrap it up, and everyone join us next week. We're going to be here. We're going to be webinaring with Hash on Friday, and then we'll be here again next week on Tuesday. Congratulations, Micah, for your webinar, and thank you so much to Steven. You guys reach out to Steven, follow him on social. He's at the Elite Golf Instruction in Palm Beach. He would love to work with you, and you can find him in the V1 Golf app and get instruction from him from anywhere in the world. Thank you, Steven.
Thank you,
Have
Mandy.
a good night so much.
You too.
Cheers.